we're back. All right. Oh my gosh, there was so much information there. I was like, could I fill up the entire page? Yes, I will. I just want to say that what's happening next is going to be incredible, because it is headlining Gavriella Schuster, who was a leader at Microsoft for so many years. She's just an incredible person. She's visionary. She's mission-focused executive and public company director with broad influence and leading-edge technology. Not just that, but she left Microsoft after being one of the biggest champions of DE&I, and she drawing from her own experience, she launched the Become platform, which is an action-oriented framework that encourages executives to become allies in the push for gender equity. And over 25 years at Microsoft, let me just say that she made such significant progress for so many women there, and just to open the doors, and for herself. Her story is so powerful. I can't wait for her to lead this afternoon session. So if you would please put it up, give it up for Gavriella Schuster. Come on up here, Gav. Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
No, I feel like I should be walking now, right?
Do it. All right, well, tell us first, what is your word of intention for the year?
Impact.
Impact. All right, cool. It's all yours now. Nice to see you. See you.
Great to see you, Patty. Thank you. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I'm so excited. It was great to hear Karen and the panelists talking about the community, and really teeing up a great topic around allyship and how to get engaged. So I'm so excited to see so many familiar names in the chat windows and so many familiar faces. So I appreciate, you just spending the next little bit of time with us. What I want to talk to you about is inclusion, diversity, and equity, because that is so important to me. As Patty said, I really was focused on that a lot at Microsoft, and since I've left, it's been all-consuming. It's really where I'm focused, and I'm thrilled to be able to share with you the work that I've been doing and the work ahead of us to get to gender equity. As many of you know, I've been in high tech for most of my career, and my story is that there have been many, many times over those years that I was the only woman in the room. And it is a lonely place to be. Over those years, I have felt dismissed, disregarded, and disrespected. Not because anyone in those rooms or those meetings was purposely trying to do so, but because there is a phenomena that exists for us women. We're interrupted more often than men when speaking. Our input and comments are often not heard, and we're taught not to interrupt. So I ask you, has this happened to you? If it has, know that you are not alone. They're well-documented challenges that women face in a male-dominated workplace. Things like the cloak of invisibility, trying to be heard in a room full of loud voices, feeling isolated and lonely, having to justify your experience or your worthiness every time you open your mouth, being talked around instead of spoken to, and feeling uncertain that you belong. Sometimes my daughter will say to me, "Mom, you're talking so loud." And I realize that I have just learned over these decades to talk loud in order to be heard. And so, it is real. As a matter of fact, 1 in 5 women reports being the only woman in the room at work. Senior level women and women in male-dominated professions like high tech are twice as likely to have this experience. And when you are the only woman, you are 50% more likely to consider quitting. So I don't know if this resonates with you. I admit that I had actually become numb to the situation over the years. I had ways that I responded when somebody made a remark or ignored what I said. I knew the drill, and I chose to ignore a lot of those really inappropriate remarks. Have you found that you also have started to tune out these microaggressions? Think about it. For me, about 5 years ago, a conversation thread surfaced where women in our industry were sharing their stories and their feelings. And this conversation thread was extensive. It really read like a novel. And it was then that I realized their experiences were the same as mine. And it made me question why I had become numb. When did I stop noticing or hearing these things? Why should we and have I endured this in order to have success in this industry? And then it led me to the question, what could I do to make sure that other women could stop putting up with this? It was a rude awakening for me. And once I was aware, once I was awake, I could never go back. I hear and see these microaggressions and the impact they have on individuals all the time. And it's a new level of situational awareness. And this is what I'm hoping to help you achieve. Because once you hear and see what's going on, once you unnumb yourself, you will want to take intentional action too. Some of you may be thinking, I don't know, I haven't noticed this before. Well, there may be a couple reasons for that. One, maybe you've been afforded a great deal of privilege and you just don't realize it. Maybe you've been in the majority. Maybe you haven't been. You've been blessed not to be the only woman in the room, and your team is much more diverse and equitable. Maybe you're a man and you haven't noticed it. Maybe you're interrupted less frequently because you're one of the bros, or people just listen when you talk. Or maybe, like me, you've gotten too used to it and you believe it's just the way it is and there's nothing you can do. I'm hoping that today I can help you identify your path to be and build allies. In order to realize the power of diversity, we need inclusion. Inclusion enables each of us to feel empowered, to share our ideas, to be authentic, and bring the best of ourselves every day. Inclusion creates that sense of belonging where we feel safe and valued for our uniqueness. But how do you create that inclusive environment? It's allies. According to a recent study, women who believe they have strong allies at work feel a greater sense of inclusion and more energy and enthusiasm on the job. Beyond creating a better workplace and a better industry, men who act as allies to women report proportionately greater levels of personal growth, and they're more likely to say they attained skills that made them better leaders, managers, husbands, fathers, brothers, and sons. So being and building allies is a strong antidote for both men and women. That ally could be you. Being an ally is something that takes intention. Now, while we've been talking about intention, it takes a whole lot of intention because it takes focus, it takes courage, and it takes awareness. And all of those things require practice and willingness to be vulnerable and a great deal of intention every day. So in my TEDx talk last November, I outlined my framework for how to become an ally. Connect, outreach, mentor, and empower. This framework I built is much more focused on how you create diversity in your organization and how you address the 4 big ways to create the multiplier effect and get more women into technology. That recruitment won't help if we don't shift the workplace culture and make it more inclusive and empowering. So today, I want to expand on the E, empower, with 6 actions you can take each day to help make our industry better, stronger, and more inclusive. So I want to introduce you to my allies framework. It goes deeper on empower. It defines the actions you can take to be and build allies, helping all of us reach this goal together. So the most impactful thing you can do for another human being is to empower them, to lift them, and create an inclusive environment that gives voice to everyone and allows people to be heard and seen for who they are. By empowering someone, you provide them with the ability and the confidence to learn, grow, and do something for themselves. There are many books on how you can empower someone else. It's something every leader aspires to do, empower their teams. But what does it mean in the context of creating an inclusive environment? To be empowering, to empower somebody to speak up, to be themselves, to bring their best self to work every day, and to aspire to do more and do better and be real. I believe at the root, it is allyship itself that empowers. Because allyship makes you feel like you're not alone. Even if you are the only woman, the only person of color, or the only in the room, you are not alone if you have an ally with you. Not feeling alone makes it easier to contribute. It gives you the confidence to say something that isn't the mainstream, offer that contrarian point of view. That's diversity. When we think about empowering someone, it means stepping up and being an active and intentional ally to them. Being an ally may not be as hard as you imagine. While it does take courage, it takes small, deliberate actions every day. So the second part of my Become framework is allies, a simple and easy to remember acronym of 6 steps that allies can take every day to empower those around them. So Race, if you wouldn't mind sharing the slide so that everyone can visually understand what I'm talking about. When you find yourself on a team or in a meeting and you realize that someone in that group could use an ally, I encourage you to take any one of these 6 actions. A equals advocate. L for listen. The second L is for lift. I for include. E for elevate, and S for sponsor. Robert Lascano, who I will introduce you to shortly, I promise, helped me to see another dimension to this framework. An ally can be reactive in that journey and eventually become proactive. So I think the first 3 behaviors, advocate, listen, and lift, are the actions an ally may take in reaction to a situation or something they observe. They will react. The last 3 behaviors are more proactive behaviors. So perhaps they're ones we have to build up to. They require planning around include, elevate, and sponsor. So I want to just take a few minutes to take you deeper into each one of these. A for advocate. To advocate, you need to sharpen your situational awareness skills. It requires greater attention to the gender dynamics that are occurring in your workplace. It means putting yourself in the shoes of those you want to be an ally to and consider what support they might need in that moment. When you're an ally and being an advocate, you work in that moment to observe behaviors that might either be excluding the minority representative in the room or singling them out. Let me give you an example. Have you ever been in a meeting when someone makes an inappropriate comment? Now, when I think of this idea of an inappropriate comment, I'm not talking about the clear-cut case of maybe like a sexual innuendo or an overture. I'm sure you'd all notice that. I'm talking about more subtle things. Like when someone says, well, let's have Jenny do that. Women like to shop. Or why doesn't Jenny take notes? Women are better at that. These are inappropriate remarks. And they're actions that rely on stereotyping and unconscious bias that we need to stamp out in the workplace. They say to the women, you're lesser, you're subservient, you're insignificant. And when you start to listen to some of the language and the requests that are made in your workplace, you might notice more of this happening than you would have imagined. When you stand up to that and talk on behalf of the group, you're being an ally. Here are some words an ally might use. If Jenny's interrupted, a male ally might say, hey, Jenny, before we move on, I want to just double check with you. Were you finished? Or if someone is repeating something Jenny said, say, Jenny, that's a great idea. Oh, I think that's a great idea. I think you're building on what Jenny's idea was, right? Jenny, is there more you would like to add on to this? If you find there are no allies for you, and you're the only one in the room, you should stand up and take notice because it tells you it's time to build some allies. After that meeting, when something happens, I encourage you to seek out the individual who made the inappropriate remark, or who spoke over you, or who interrupted you, or who said the same thing you said, but 5 minutes later and everybody thought it was their idea. I'm not encouraging that you do a confrontation. I think you can talk to them without putting them on the defensive. But in my experience, when you point out that what happened made you feel badly, I promise you 90% of the time, that individual did not have that intention. They may not be aware at all. And by sharing with them what happened and how it made you feel and what you'd like to see next time, you are building an ally. The second letter is L for listen. So what does it mean to listen with intention and become an ally through that listening? Well, there are several elements that a great listener employs. One, they listen to learn. They don't listen to respond or listen to solve, but they listen with generosity, with honest intention and curiosity to hear what you have to say. Two, they ask questions, not to challenge the credibility of what you're saying, but to better understand your perspective. Three, genuine listening requires focus, sincerity, empathy, and a refusal to interrupt, a genuine value for the other person's experience. Four, it means, and this is the hard one, you quiet the chatter in your head and you become fully present for the other person. Five, it means you check in to ensure you have clarity and understanding of what's being said. And six, it means you convey appreciation, interest, and empathy for the other person's perspective. Listening like that requires energy. It's a valuable and intentional act. It's a gift. When you genuinely listen to another person without trying to solve their problem, but just hear them, you build trust, you build respect, and you build allyship. I think truly listening this way is not something that you can take for granted. I know for myself, every time I enter a conversation, I have to actively take steps to quiet the chatter in my head, to stay present, to stay curious, and to be able to process what I'm hearing and stay in it until I reach understanding. So this is one of those actions you need to continually pay attention to and take feedback on. I find checking in with other people, as scary as that might be, frequently, on what you've heard and what you understand to be an effective way to listen and to stay in that active listening mode. The third letter, L, for lift. Lifting up and building confidence in those around you. It's very easy in an environment where a woman is constantly dismissed or disrespected for her to lose confidence and stop speaking up. It's death by 1,000 cuts. If every idea is forced to pass the teardown test, it will further diminish her confidence and silence her. Too often in high tech, there's a belief that great ideas must stand the teardown test. This has the effect of destroying your confidence. Instead, take the approach of building up an idea. Take an idea that's presented and build on it, channel it, shape it. This has the effect of lifting someone's confidence. Find opportunities to provide positive feedback and share actions that that person has taken that are good and strong and that you'd like to see more of. Avoid nitpicking and focusing on negative cycles and instead recognize the value of everyone's contribution. Fourth letter, include. When you walk into a meeting, a team, or a group, seek out those who are not actively sharing their ideas and work to include them back into the conversation. Look around the room and encourage everyone to contribute. When someone does speak up, demonstrate that their opinion matters. Include your female colleagues in informal meetings that happen over lunch or drinks where they may not feel comfortable inviting themselves. Fifth letter, E, for elevate. Elevate individuals by providing them opportunities to be more visible. That can be as easy as amplifying their voice and making sure they actually receive credit for their idea in the meeting, or commenting positively and resharing their thought leadership through social channels, or it can be as big as suggesting that a female colleague speaks in your place at an event. Look for new projects or opportunities for the individual to demonstrate their leadership and gain visibility. And finally, S, sponsor. Be supportive of individuals even when they're not in the room. Ensure they're considered for new roles, new projects, or new opportunities they might not even be aware of. Seek out and share opportunities for them to grow and take on more leadership. This type of ally behavior can be very subtle. Sometimes it'll go unnoticed by most of the people in the room. But it always takes a lot of courage on the part of the ally to speak up, and will always be noticed and appreciated by the individual who in that moment could use an ally. I hope this framework helps you to remember the 6 things you can do the next time you see that somebody needs an ally. Tuning your sensitivity to someone might be feeling excluded or singled out, it takes practice, and it takes courage, and it takes intentionality. When you work with intention to observe and act this way routinely, it will get easier over time. And it will make it easier for the people you're working with. As more men come forth as allies, it will empower you and your female colleagues and ultimately make the industry and the profession a better place to be. Learning to ask for allyship and to be an ally will empower you to bring your best self to work every day and enjoy doing it. So I'm counting on you. So what I want to do next is I would like you to take some action. We're going to break you out into small group discussion. And I want each of you to think of a moment when you acted as an ally to someone else. And I'd like you to share with the group, what did you do? How did it make you feel? How did it create a shift for the person that you were being an ally to?